We've got 7 different articles to look at from 7 different outlets, guys. From Brexit to Russell Brand and on asylum seekers, just as a tip of the ice of what we're going to be looking at, guys. Let's dive into them all. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here, and we start with an exclusive from The Guardian here on Newsround. First of 7 articles, guys, with the headline that UK firefighters go to Spain for wildfire training as the number of blazes surge. Wildfires, once rare in the UK, have more than doubled last year to nearly 24,000, with devastating effects on wildlife habits. Yeah, we don't really have as devastating as other nations in the world, but as we know, we have seen some devastating wildfires that are really taking place in America and Australia, for example. Really bad wildfires. Obviously, earlier this year there was in Greece as well, which was Greece. No, was it Greece? Yes, it was Greece as well. So obviously we need to be ready for them, and as they are increasing because due to obviously climate change is obviously having an effect on these guys. So, wildfires recorded by the UK Fire Brigade surge in 2022 amid extreme heat and droughts, new figures show, as a growing number of fire services invest in new equipment to deal with the rising fire risks due to climate change. Figures obtained by The Guardian under the Freedom of Information Act request shows that a number of wildfires recorded by fire brigades in England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland have more than doubled last year, reaching 23,699 in 2022, compared with 9,307 the year before. So that's a massive jump right there, guys, from 23,000. So it's more than double, which is insane. Last summer, the temperatures exceeded 40 degrees Celsius, 104 Fahrenheit for the first time. Damaging blazes swept across the country, burning through homes in Wellington, East London and Barnsley, South Yorkshire. Wildfires burned through crucial habitats for wildlife such as ground nesting birds, lizards and snakes, and destroy forests and other ecosystems that are being restored for climate change migration. Large wildfires were once rare in the UK when satellite monitoring started in 2006 through the EU's Copernicus system. No larger fires were recorded for 5 years until 2011. Since then, 599 large wildfires have been recorded, burning 126,618 acres, that's 310 acres. From Cornwall to Kent, fire services are now investing in new equipment such as off-road vehicles, drones and backpack sprayers to prepare for hotter summers, as well as equipment to help firefighters cool down while battling the blazes. So this graph here, this is a FOI response to show fire brigades with records with more than 23,000 wildfires in 2022. So this is from the last 5 years, as you can see here, from 2018. They've been kind of, look like they've slowly gone down actually, according to these recordings, and then this year it's just jumped insanely high there according to the freedom of information that they have here. This Guardian source is from the Freedom of Information. So this graph is from the Freedom of Information response by fire brigades to the Guardian. Note: fire brigades do not have a standard definition of what counts as a wildfire. 35 of 52 brigades replied with usable data. So this is the best that they could come up with in terms of a data collaboration for UK wildfires. So it's important to point that out there. Some UK fire services are turning to countries with long histories of fighting wildfires for help, with firefighters sent to Catalina for specialist training in how to deal with the rising risk. Brigades urge the public to take extra care with barbecues, smoking and outdoor fires during the hot weather, as many wildfires are started by accident. Yep, we have we do have some clumsy people in the UK, unfortunately, so let's try not to start any fires. Last summer we tackled some of the largest wildfires in our history, said Matt Dedman, Assistant Director for Operational Response at the Kent Fire and Rescue Service. We respond to grass and field fires throughout the prolonged period of hot weathers. Fires like these highlight the undeniable impact of climate change, he said. Bruce Ferguson, apologies if I mispronounced it, Deputy Assistant Chief Officer with the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, which battled the second largest wildfire in UK's history in April this year at Glendon Lochjabbar. I can't say that, I'm sorry guys. Said the brigade had invested in new training and prevention measures. We must adapt to meet the precise rise in extreme weather in the years to come, he says. Experts said that while a number of wildfires was not necessarily the best indicator of severity, even small fires could be very damaging. In England, fire crews attended a record number of serious outdoor blazes in the summer 2022, according to the Home Office figures confirming the trend. I am concerned with heat waves turning into fire waves, said Guillermo Rain, Professor of Fire Service at the Imperial College London. London has already seen 3 fire waves since 2009. During the worst of these on the 19th of July 2022, we were very lucky that it was not windy in London and that the day ended with rain instead of more heat. I was remembering the 1966 Great Fire of London that day. To gather the figures, The Guardian sent a Freedom of Information Act request to the UK Fire Service requesting the data of a number of wildfires they have recorded in the past 5 years, 2018-2022, and requesting details of new equipment that they had bought because of the rising wildfire risk. Based on the response from 35 of the UK's 52 fire services in England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, it was found that the number of recorded wildfires had been high for the past 5 years, but surged during dry conditions in 2022, reaching 23,699 incidences in 2022, compared with just 9,307 the year before. In the years before that, 12,216 were recorded in 2022, 10,730 were recorded in 2019, and 15,267 were recorded in 2018, a year that also experienced heat wave conditions. Of the fire services, 13 did not respond with data that could be included in the overall figure or did not record wildfires. 3 did not respond and 1 was not contacted. The National Fire Chiefs Council provided guidance on what counts as a wildfire, with some services following in their response. But others used their own definitions, meaning that smaller naturally occurred wildfires were likely to be included in the figures, even though they would be unlikely to be recognised as a wildfire by many. Stefan Doller, a professor of wildland fire science at Swansea University, said blazes could start even on cool days and the public need to be more vigilant as the UK climate change. With the occurrence of long dry spells and also summer heat waves increasingly in the UK, the risk of campfires, a disposable barbecue, a spark from machinery or glowing exhaust pipes cause a wildfire is also on the rise. Even on a cold day, dry grass, heater or bracken can easily ignite, and we need to be increasingly vigilant with the potential ignition sources, he said. The tactics and equipment used to fight fires in buildings are not very effective for wildfires. The UK Fire and Rescue Service are responding to the increasing wildfire risk by investing in the type of training and equipment that has long been established in the regions where wildfires are a regular occurrence, like the Mediterranean, California or Australia, he said. Several conservation organisations have raised concerns about the rise in wildfire risk for UK wildlife. The RSSB issued an appeal for emergency funds for its site at Horrendous near Loch Ness after a fire burned through half of the reserves, killing wildlife including birds such as the endangered black grouse, greenshank and the Scottish crossbill, and destroyed a 25-year-old project to restore the ancient Catadon forest there. That's really bad. Rob Stoneman, Director of Landscape Recovery at Wildlife Trust, said wildfires in the UK are a very real and a dangerous problem, both for nature and communities. This year we've witnessed tragic fires in Dartmoor, in Northumberland and in the Scottish Highlands, to name a few, tearing through meadows, woodlands and other precious places for nature. Yeah, not good, guys. Wildfires, obviously they are. Yeah, it's good that we have some wildfires going. It's good that we have some firefighters, obviously getting some specialist training from those who deal with it on a much more regular occurrence. And obviously, as our climate changes and our planet continues to get warmer, unfortunately, we need to take more appropriate actions to make sure that we to do everything we can to avoid fires, even if it's just even if it's just an accident. Even if it's just accidental, we need to make sure that we take all the precautions that we can. So I welcome that UK firefighters are going to Spain to get some extensive training. I do hope that they could do some cooperation with both America and Australia to help have better understandings of these as well. Let's hope we don't have as many wildfires this year that we've had this year. Let's hope it does drop next year. Cross fingers if the data is anything to come by, guys. So a bit more. So we're going from climate to a bit more in business, guys. So this one here is from Sky News, with the headline that retail sales recovery hurt by weaker fuel demand as prices shoot up. There is little cause for retail cheer in the latest ONS data, which shows how the surge in global oil prices since June is now affecting fuel purchases. Yeah, not good, guys. The return of summer weather last month helped retail sales recover despite a hit from the weaker demand of fuel, according to official figures. I mean, it was good for retail from the looks of it here, but obviously fuel, the recent announcements has obviously probably shook things up as well, hasn't it, to be fair. The Office of National Statistics, the ONS, reported a 0.4% rise, a figure that grew to 0.6% when the efforts of fuel sales were excluded. It said stronger clothing sale drove the increase, but fuel sale volumes were 1.2% lower, likely the result of the surge in pump costs due to the rise in global oil prices. Yeah, that's not surprise people. The bounce back for overall sales followed an upwardly revised 1.1% decline in July compared to the previous month, when wet weather was blamed for people shying away from the summer fashion purchases in physical stores. The ONS senior statistician Heather Bovey said retail recovered a little from the large fall seen in July, driven by a partial bounce back in food and a strong month for clothing, though sales overall remain subdued. These were particularly offset by internet sales, which dropped slightly, and some people returned to shopping in person following a very wet July. Fuel sales also fell, with increased prices hitting demand. Recent RAC data shows that the costs for both unleaded and diesel were up by more than 10p a litre since the beginning of August, reflecting the higher prices for Brent crude oil seen in 10 months. Production cuts by Saudi Arabia and Russia have been blamed for the hikes, with pumps prices likely to have gone further due to reflect the current levels for Brent. The ONS data is keenly awaiting a household spending accounts for the majority of the UK economy, currently flatlining. A measure of activities covering manufacturing and services, though excluding retail, indicated a growing need of a recession, growing risk of a recession ahead. Yeah, we've had this talk a lot about recession for quite a bit, guys, to be fair. But we honestly don't know. Like, they say we're on the edge, and we've had some, obviously, business people in business leaders. I think, there's had one or two MPs have said that they want a recession as well. I mean, I certainly don't think I don't want a recession. I don't want people to lose their jobs and livelihoods, but we're already we are already struggling as it is, to be fair, guys. It's not good. The S&P Global Purchasing Managers Index PMI said the readings of activity during September, which are subject to revision when full data becomes available, pointing to a contraction in quarterly output of 0.4%. It was released as a closely watched measure of consumer confidence, showing improvement. The GfK index, which measures consumer attitude, showed a 4-point improvement for September, but remains well inside negative territory. Joe Stanlin, the company's client strategy director, suggested that its findings were more bullish amid the shifting sands of the cost of living crisis, with the headline figure now back in line with January 2022. The view on our personal financial situation for the past year and next is registering marginal but welcome growth, while expertise for the UK-wide economy in the coming year shows a robust 6-point increase. And with less than 100 shopping days till Christmas, Christmas, the 4-point boost to major purchase measures might offer some hope to retailers who know all too well that many people face financial pressures in the run-up to this year's festive season. Yeah, that's going to be... a lot of people have been made worse, have been worse off by the cost of living crisis, obviously. But what a lot of people have done, and I've noticed, is people have bought things throughout the years, like really cheap, when they've got them on the cheap or whatever. Some people have actually stored for Christmas this year, so it's saving them having to do the shopping themselves, guys. And yes, I'm not drinking water today, believe it or not. The confidence readings were taking advantage of the Bank of England's latest interest rates announcements through rate settlers did have access to the PMI data. Their decision to maintain the bank's rate at 5.25% was due to restrictions in key inflation indicators, but the 9-member Monetary Policy Committee is also being concerned by the recession risks flagged by firms taking part in the PMI survey. They said following 14 consecutive increases to tackle surging inflation, its rate settling committee will be anxious to see if the move herds a pickup in demand such as consumer spending. That scenario would be concerned as wages are currently outstripped at the rate of inflation, and any spending splurge would be seen as added pressure. While the bank's pause on rate hikes gives some security to borrowers that things like mortgage costs would not go up further for now, the governor has signalled that he would have to act again if the pace of price rises accelerated, and that it was clear that there was no prospect of any cut rate anytime soon. He can only do so much. Like, I don't know too much about economy and bank rates and that. That's not my expertise, guys. But he is trying. He's in a difficult situation because he has to work with an incompetent government that aren't looking at the interests of the people. But it's good that retail sales have recovered a little bit. There are some retailers out there who are doing okay. Obviously, they're all gearing up for Christmas. They want people to spend their money during Christmas. That's when the money will really come in for the retail industry. They really, it feels like a struggle. I think for them, everybody relies on people splashing the cash around Christmas time, but it's getting harder for people to do that. Fuel demand and prices shooting up, obviously not good. All the more reason for us to go green and to less reliance on petrol and more reliant on electric. We've talked about it before, guys, so it is something that we need to tackle. That is for sure. And we're now going to go into a bit more politics, guys. Specifically, words from the Liberal Democrat leader. This is from the BBC, guys. Voters aren't talking about Brexit, says the Lib Dem leader. Yeah. Apparently, they're not talking about Brexit. Rejoining the European Union is currently off the table, Lib Dem Sir Ed Davey had said. The party, which is defined by its Stop Brexit stance 4 years ago, is eager to talk about other things. This week's annual conference will instead focus on issues like health and housing. But will that resolve hold, given that Labour have begun the Brexit conversation again? Sir Ed said most people on the doorstep just aren't talking about Europe. The party's faithful will conjugate in Bournemouth for the first time in person autumn conference since before COVID this week. Last year it was called off due to the death of the Queen. Yeah, so they were supposed to have a party conference last year and it got called off because it happened when the Queen passed away. But for them saying that, are people really not talking about Brexit? I think people are more worried. What's he saying here? Like health and housing. Like, I think people just want to be able to live and make ends meet. And I'm sure people have mentioned to the Liberal Democrats about the cost of living crisis. And I think that's more of a priority. People want to be able to make ends meet right now. But I'm not walking around and knocking on doors. They are. So teasing up the days ahead, Sir Ed wants to plunge into the problem of raw sewage being pumped into rivers, household bills and the NHS. We've been making the argument that people should have a right to see their GP within a week. It's things like the NHS and the economy which will determine the next election, he says, not the aftermath of Brexit. Well, Brexit is an aftermath that won't go away, so to kind of ignore the white elephant in the room when the white elephant in the room is a part of the cause of the problems that are occurring in this country. Unless if you're not prepared to deal with it, why would we cast your vote for you? You have to acknowledge that Brexit is an issue, but to say it's not something we shouldn't discuss anymore is wrong. We have to keep talking about it because it is causing massive damage to the UK economy. There's a balancing act ahead of the Liberal Democrats as they eye Conservative-held seats that backed both Leave and Remain in 2016, such as former strongholds in the West Country as well as London and the commuter belt. As one insider put it, it's a trick of appeals to both leave supported parts of the country and Middle East Romania. Romania. That's a bit of a weird word. Recent election successes suggest the party's tactics on focusing on core domestic issues are paying off. And if voters really don't want to talk about Europe, then what's the problem? In the last few weeks, something has changed. Labour have decided to start talking about Europe quite a lot. In a sign of political confidence, Keir Starmer has been to EU offices in the Netherlands to discuss migration and to Paris to meet the French President Emmanuel Macron. Labour declared that it wants to rewrite the EU-UK trade deal and find fresh areas of cooperation. Meanwhile, Conservative Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, in Action Man, has been cutting deals with Brussels and Northern Ireland and science research. Yeah, well, he's not exactly doing a lot for the British public, really, at the moment, is he, the Prime Minister? Talking a lot, but not doing a lot. An agreement with the EU's border agency, Frontex, is nearing completion. But Sir Ed insists that people who are passionate about building closer ties with Brussels should still back his party. We're the real deal. If you look over the decades, Liberal Democrats have been the party arguing for a strong relationship with our European partners. Labour, he says, are flip-flopping. We want Britain to go back at the heart of Europe, but we're also realistic that it's going to take some time. The Liberal Democrats have an agreed policy to rebuild Britain's relationship with the EU, and so it describes the amount to a root and branch reform of the Tories' dreadful deal. It includes closer links on education, doing a deal on asylum seekers, and deepening trade ties, somewhat similar to Labour's emerging policy. But there is a big difference in that the Lib Dems seek to take back the UK into the EU single market for an unspecified point in the future. So are they the party of rejoin after all? We're the party of trying to make sure that relationship works, said Sir Ed. This is the kind of careful language that's sparking dismay among some within the Liberal Democrats who want a louder, faster-paced policy. I would love to see the party being much more honest and braver about addressing the elephant in the room, says parliamentary candidate Caroline Volden. She is standing in uknews, soon to be renamed South Devon, and briefly led the Lib Dems in the European Parliament until January 2020. A bolder case needs to be made, Mrs. Volden believes, about the impact of Brexit on the NHS, hospitality and the economy. There is a section of the party that would like to see us being much bolder and about our beliefs that Brexit was a mistake, and then we need to start finding our way back into at least the single market and the customs union. However, others support the leadership's gradualist approach. Even among strong Remainers, lots of people who don't want us to reopen that painful row, says Lucy Nushka, the Lib Dem leader at Cambridgeshire County Council. Local and by-election wins have led many to the party to think that they're on the right track, despite largely flatlining in the polls this year. Yeah, she made a right mess, Jo Swindon. She actually back in 2019 when she was the Lib Dem leader, she really screwed up a great opportunity for the Liberal Democrats. She wasn't ready for that well whatsoever. I think there is significant recognition in what we're doing well under Sir Ed's leadership, said Miss Nisaka, who is also briefly served as a member of the European Parliament. Scrolling through Bournemouth's conference agenda, the EU only gets initial mentions while other policy motions about farming, the armed forces, and how to grow the economy. The word Brexit isn't there at all. It's a far cry from former leader Jo Swindon standing in front of Stop Brexit banners in the winter of 2019. She, of course, would go on to lose her seat as the hopes for Remain revival failed to materialise. Back then, the Lib Dems would go through being big and bold on being anti-Brexit and be a vote winner. Ahead of next year's likely general election, the party has now reached the opposition conclusion. They'll hope this time that they are right. Yeah, Lib Dems, guys. There is some optimism for the Liberal Democrats, but they do feel a little bit like Labour, if I'm honest. Like, it doesn't come across to me. Hopefully, I'm not too quiet in the microphone. They do just feel a bit like Labour, to be fair. But the problem is that they've rowed back on policies and promises that they have made too. So it's kind of hard to take them as I can't say we can take them as seriously, guys. You just I'd like to think so. At the moment, my position is I'm putting my vote to where I'm at. I'm in a very strong Labour hold. So the chances of anything changing here is unlikely. But my vote's going to the Greens for me, personally. But some people will vote Lib Dems. And I can understand people wanting to vote for those two instead of the red and blue. Because Labour have done a lot of flip flopping and roll back on politics and policies and that, which is very sceptical. They're very worrying. But yeah, if you've been a Lib Dem voter before, and if you, I think they are being very cautious as well. Lib Dems, they're not. They definitely have learnt some lessons of 2019. That is for sure. But not coming outright saying that they're going to rejoin. I mean, they've talked about the single market and that, which makes realistic sense. But outright rejoin the EU, they've not actually said that. But they are a European. They are an EU party, a European party really in the UK. Like, for them to push themselves away is a bit unusual, but I do think they will. They may make some gains at the next general election. I do expect them to take some things off the Conservatives by tactical voting. That is for sure, guys. Just before we go into the next one, guys, if you can hit the like button, it would be really appreciated. If you could share across social media, that would be very helpful, recording these news rounds for you guys. And if you also get a chance, check out some of my links in the description down below as well. So the next one we got is from iNews. This is regarding Russell Brand. Not so much, a little bit different on Russell Brand, if I'm honest. So the headline is Advertisers are pulling ads from Rumble, the site that hosts the comedian's videos. So one company says it goes without saying that he would not be happy to be featured on Russell Brand's videos. So obviously there are allegations being made against Russell Brand, and they have Russell Brand has denied saying that they were consensual. He has stated that. Rumble has refused to. We'll read into it anyway, but essentially what's happened is that YouTube I've pulled ad revenues from Russell Brand's content on his YouTube channel, and Rumble have basically said that they're not going to do that. They got a letter from an MP asking if they're going to do that by having someone on their channel like that, but Rumble isn't going to change its position. So advertisers are not happy and are pulling ads from them, apparently, from this story. They do realise that there's the likes of Andrew Tate are also still on Rumble as well. These advertisers. Just saying. So, advertisers are removing their ads from a video sharing platform that continues to host Russell Brand after he was accused of rape and sexual assault, the eye can reveal. The move by several companies selling everything from software to soft toys to pull their ads from a US-based Rumble following the decision by YouTube to suspend ad revenue on the comedian's channel, and Rumble's refusal to follow suit. Mr. Brand used Rumble and YouTube to post a video denying any wrongdoing on Friday, the days before the Times and the Sunday Times and Channel 4 dispatched public accounts from 4 women accusing him of sexual violence between 2006 and 2013. Mr. Brand denies all the charges. Each time the video is played on Rumble in which Mr. Brand says his relationship was always consensual, an advert of several seconds is shown at the start from a different company. The Wedding Shop, a gift list service, told the Eye, "We're on the phone right now and our agency to assertion which of these networks is showing our ads on Rumble so that we can actively remove ads from the platform. It goes without saying that we would not be happy to be featured on Russell Brand's video. We use a media agency to spread our advertising budget, and we have never chosen to advertise on Rumble, which must be part of the Google Bing Meta ad network. Where our ad is placed is not something we generally control. It would be for Google, Bing or Meta to decide whether or not to include our exclusive particular platforms." Zeno, a software company, informed of its decision to pull ads from Rumble, although declined to provide a statement. Fiverr, a multinational online service that connects freelancers to companies, has also stopped its advertisement from appearing on Mr. Brands' videos on Rumble. Spokesperson said these ads have been removed and our partners and teams have been alerted to ensure that this does not happen again. We have excluded his channel on both YouTube and on Rumble. We take brand safety and ethical advertising placement seriously, and we do not condone or support any forms of violence or misconduct. A toy manufacturer, Wowie, that makes the children's robotic toys called Fingerlings, said it took immediate action when it realised that its products had been appearing on ads on Rumble. Rumble is not a platform selected for any of Wowie's official media campaigns for Fingerlings or any of our other brands, a spokesperson said. We have notified our agencies of record to look at any anomaly that could have occurred. Together we shall evaluate and expand negative keywords, content and websites blacklisted to maintain the highest standards of brand safety. The People's Postcode Lottery, which raises money for several charities that helps women and girls, including for Women's International, Girls Guiding, Breast Cancer Now, ActionAid and the NSPCC, did not want to go on the record stating its intentions, but indicated that in a few days its actions should become clear. A spokesperson said, we take our responsibility as an advertiser extremely seriously. Our players have raised more than $1.1 billion for charities and good causes, including many which work to fight to protect the rights of women and girls. The presence in our advertisement on specific online platforms or media channels should never be interpreted as an endorsement of a particular viewpoint or editorial position. I think that's the right comments to basically say there, that for advertisers, to say that that unless they have a specific endorsement from that content creator, and there is a content creator has a specific endorsement from an advertiser, then it's different. But I think that statement is very, very professional here, because they're saying the presence of our advertisement on specific online platforms or media channels should never be interpreted as an endorsement of a particular viewpoint or editorial position. That is a line I think most companies should really try to make. And they're not outright saying anything about Rumble in particular or saying about Russell Brand in particular on this. This is a very, very good statement, I would say. Very carefully worded, that. But yeah, if you see an advert on content, you have to remember that they are not specifically choosing for that to be put there. That's something that, whether it's YouTube or the advertisements, is doing it for them. And another advertisement, a famous British brand that did not wish to be named, told the Eye it had asked its advertiser buyers to immediately remove its ads from the platform. It is not clear whether the actions of individual advertisers will have any direct impact on Mr. Brand's income from Rumble. But it marks an escalation of the collapse of Mr. Brand's fortunes and reach. YouTube, where he has over 6.6 million subscribers, announced earlier this week that he has demonetized its channel. Instagram has marked its merchandise store as being under review. Dates for the Chameleon stand-up tour have been postponed. Channel 4 and the BBC have removed several shows featuring Mr. Brand, and the pub he owns in Fitchhill, Oxfordshire, has been boarded up with security fencing and erected around its perimeter. This is not... It's not good for him, let's just put it that way. Following the allegations, it emerged that new complaints about Mr. Brand's alleged behaviour has been made. Dispatches have received serious allegations, while Channel 4 indicated it has also received information. These new allegations have not been investigated or proven. They will be rigorously checked by dispatches. The Metropolitan Police said on Sunday that the force had received a report of sexual assault which was alleged to have taken place in Soho in central London in 2003. Mr. Brand has said that he absolutely refutes the allegations being made against him, and that he said his relationship has always been absolutely always consensual. Rumble represents one of the last remaining income streams for the 48-year-old. The platform, whose US headquarters are in Florida, is popular amongst the American right and positions itself as a bastion of free speech that is immune to cancel culture. Rumble has grown rapidly over the last 3 years, with over 78 million active users per month by 2022. Last year, the site began to host videos from Andrew Tate, the social media influencer facing rape and human trafficking charges in Romania, which he denies, after he was banned from Facebook and Instagram. He was also removed from YouTube and TikTok. Like, his TikTok videos blew up and they just would not go away. With over 1.4 million followers on the site, Mr. Brand is one of the most high-profile stars, with some content providers on Rumble earning as much as 6 to 7 figure sums annually from posting their videos. Excuse me. Yesterday, Dame Caroline Dyer, chair of the Culture, Media and Sports Committee, wrote to the CEO of Rumble, Chris Power, asking if they could confirm whether Mr. Brand is able to monetize his content, including his videos relating to his series against him. She said, if you would like to know whether Rumble intends to join YouTube and spending Mr. Brand's ability to money on platform. I think we've covered this. Yeah, Rumble. Yeah, we've covered this this part here already. In multiple telephone conversations with advertisers, some said they were unaware that their ads were appearing on Rumble, let alone Mr. Brand's videos. As they are largely placed by third-party ad buying agencies, only became aware when approached by I for comment. The placing of online adverts is notoriously complicated, with various levels of controls that advertisers can extract over where exactly their product is featured, but typically they can request their ads be pulled from sites that contain content that is contrary to their ethos or to their demographics of their market. This particular ad that users see are often dictated by the previous spending habits. After Fiverr informed IDA it removed the ads from Rumble, they were still appearing. When we approached, the spokesperson said, "We have informed our partners to remove them and we'll reach out again now." Excuse me. Asked by whether Rumble will continue to host and support and promote Mr. Brand, neither the company nor its public relations company responded. And when contacted to a response to numerous advertisers pulling ads from the site from Mr. Brand's channel, no response was provided prior to publication. While Rumble continues to refrain from commenting on whether it will continue to host Mr. Brand, several of its content creators, including Glenn Grulin and Sean Atwood, have published videos asking questions about certain elements of the accusations against Mr. Brand. Andrew Tate appeared to offer support to Mr. Brand on X, formerly known as Twitter, by posting on his chameleon, "Welcome to the club." The Eye has contacted Mr. Brand for comment. Andrew Tate's tweet is not exactly helping anybody there, to be fair. But it does put Rumble in a difficult position, these advertisement ads being pulled. But not even just that, because of the kind of content that is on Rumble. And yes, I do have a Rumble account, and yes, I do put my content on there, and no, nobody actually looks at it, just for the record. I personally don't have anything against Rumble. Personally, but I understand the concerns people have with Rumble, rightfully or wrongfully, because of some of the absolute free speech that they hosted. But this does raise questions about advertisements and where people who are promoting their businesses and that, and where these ads are being promoted now. It does put them into perspective. Not so much that just being put on the chameleon's videos, but the fact they're being put on Rumble without consent or something. And the thing is, you put it out there and you don't realise where it's being put, your promotion, your ads on that. And you're letting agencies do this. You should, if you're letting agencies just plant them anyway and you don't know about it, yeah, you need to keep on top of where your advertisements kind of being placed. And I think that's really, really important. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the chat there with regards to it. Right, got a couple more to go through, guys. This one here, a bit of a short one, but a not surprising one either, guys. So this is from the Independent. Strikes by train drivers will leave some areas with no services, Rail Group has said. Asylum members will walk out on September the 30th and October the 4th. Yeah, train strikes, guys. We've talked about train strikes. They're still going, and I think it's important to remind us, hey, they're still happening, and the reasons why they're happening. So rail passengers are being warned that fresh strikes by train drivers in a long-running dispute over pay will mean some areas will have no services. Members of the train drivers union ASLAF will walk out on Saturday, September the 30th, and Wednesday, October the 4th, coinciding with the annual conference of the Conservative Party. Excuse me, I'm feeling a bit of reflux, my apologies. The drivers will take action short of a strike in the first week of October, which will also disrupt services. Strikes will affect 15 train companies with service due to start later and finish much earlier than usual, typically between 7:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. The offer to Asylum, which would take average driver salary from 60,000 to 65,000 for a 4-day week, remains on the table, and we've always open to constructive dialogue. Rail Delivery Group spokesman. The Rail Delivery Group, the RDG, said operators will run as many trains as possible, but there will be wide regional variance, with some running no services at all. It is likely that evening services on some lines will be affected on the days before each strike, and morning services will also be disrupted on October the 1st and the 5th, because rolling stock will not be in the right depots. Yeah, so what tends to happen is, obviously, when there are strikes, trains are not in the places they need to be with schedules, because obviously the way train network operates in the UK is, obviously, you've got to make sure trains are in the right place here when it comes to the start of services the next day. And if the workers are not there, that means the trains are not in the right place, and it means the trains are not in the right place. That means that it affects the services the next day. So it's not just the day of the strike that's affected; it's the aftermath of it, because you've got to get the trains in the right places for them as well. So that's a big issue as well. The RDD said the rail industry is working hard to keep trains running, despite the union leaders' decision to reject an offer which would give their members an 8% pay rise over 2 years, taking average salaries for train drivers up to nearly £60,000 a year to almost £65,000 a year on average a 4-day week. Special timetables for September 30th will be published on September the 22nd. On national rail inquiries, and for October the 3rd on Wednesday, September the 27th. A spokesperson for the RDG said, "We want to resolve the dispute, and we are acutely aware of the damage impact it has on our passengers and people and the long-term stability of the industry itself. We apologise to our customers for the unnecessary disruption of the journey caused by Asylum's leadership." The offer to Asylum, which would take the average driver salary from 60,000 to 65,000 excuse me, for a 4-day week, remains on the table, and we are always open to constructive dialogue. However, it is at this time the industry is losing £10 million a day post-COVID. Its leadership must recognise the need to make changes to how the industry is run, and both funds any rising crucially, so that we can give our passengers more reliable train services, particularly on Sunday. Well, Sunday you don't always have the best services. So I can vouch for that, because I've used services on Sunday, but I digress. I think train services, they've been expensive, unreliable, and they're becoming more unreliable and expensive, which is a problem. I mean, it's cheaper for people to fly from London to Manchester than it is to get a train. Everything is cheaper flying. That's a real shame as well. How are we supposed to discourage reducing carbon emissions and that when it's easier to buy a flight than it is to take a train? It's absolutely ridiculous, guys. We also have the ticket office issues as well. They want to close all ticket offices and train £60,000 a year for 4 days. It does sound like a lot, but like everything, they're trying to fight for a better pay deal, better terms and conditions for themselves, guys. My apologies. I needed to have a drink. As you can see, I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit here. So guys, I've got 2 more articles to go through. We're about 43 minutes in. Let's keep going. If you can, hit the like button on while you're here. Really appreciate it, and share across social media. It really does help support the video and supports the channel. And if you're not a subscriber, please click the bell notification icon so you'll be notified whenever I upload a video, guys. Yes, that button in the bottom right hand corner of the screen that you're looking at right now, guys, will also be subscribe. Anyway, let's dive right into the next one, guys. So this one is from Open Democracy. Both last 2 articles are kind of intertwined into each other anyway, guys. So it's exclusive from Open Democracy. The headline is the Home Office stops feeding Afghans are still stuck in hotels. Councils left to find homes for more than 500 Afghans, 300 of them children, as the Home Office winds down support. The Home Office has stopped feeding hundreds of Afghan refugees who are still in hotels, Open Democracy can reveal. It follows the government's decision to end the use of hotels to house more than 8,000 Afghans brought to the UK under its resettlement scheme by September. Despite measures pledging to find homes for all of them, at least 25 local councils have been left responsible for preventing more than 500 Afghans becoming homeless, including 300 children, according to the responses to the Freedom of Information request Open Democracy sent to every council in England. Some have been allowed to stay in the hotels on a temporary basis, but had their meals withdrawn overnight. One man we spoke to in Bradford, Salim, said that there are no fridges or cooking facilities, meaning he and his family have to rely on takeaways for hot food. This is terrible. Why? In a desperate attempt to get these people out of these hotels, they're taking away their food. How disgusting is this from the Home Office? Allegedly. We are far away from the centre and there is nothing but pizza and burger takeaways nearby, he told Open Democracy. I feel terrible. This is all my children eat now. It's not suitable for them. No, it's not. Salim said the change has left children going to school hungry because their takeaway isn't always open and adults skipping meals because they can't afford to pay for hot food. Bradford City Council said the Home Office is still responsible for the accommodation and the decision to withdraw meals was natural. Natural to take away food from them. That's national. I'm misreading it. National. This is the Home Office are basically trying to throw they want the councils to take responsibility for it rather than them taking it themselves. It's another case of just throwing the problem on someone else's door and walking away. This is what the government are doing. This is what this Home Office is doing. This is what its Home Secretary is doing. It's basically ignoring the problems. The true number owned a homeless prevention duty is likely to be higher than 500, as 19 councils did not respond to our request for figures. Yeah, I don't blame them for not responding. They'd probably be ashamed of it. As of the 31st of August, 1,826 Afghan refugees were still living in Home Office hotels, according to official data. A Home Office spokesperson said that most of those were waiting to move into settled accommodation or had medical conditions. Salim said he has worked as an interpreter of the British forces and later fought the Taliban alongside them. He is one of 95 Afghans in Bradford now facing what's called statutory homelessness, meaning his family is at risk of being homelessness and the local council has a legal obligation to help. Salim was among 15,000 Afghans airlifted to the UK during Operation Pitting in August 2021 after the Taliban takeover. He has been living in the hotels since then with his wife and 3 children, the youngest of whom is 3 years old. In June, the Home Office told him he would need to find his own accommodation in the private rented sector. Salim recalls how that month he spoke to 22 different property agents in Bradford. They all said the same thing. They could not offer me a home because I could not demonstrate I earn enough money and I didn't have a guarantor, he said. On one occasion, he said a property agent just hung up on him as soon as he told him he was a refugee. They don't want to talk to them because they ain't got anything to offer. The Home Office acknowledged it has not been able to find homes for some families before its August deadline before the ending the use of hotels. Well, what are you doing for them then? Local authorities now own homelessness duties to all those who remain in hotels, meaning they are legally required to find them accommodation. The Home Office said that some have been moved into council properties while others, like in Bradford, have temporarily remained in hotels which he continues to manage. Asked whether his life was ever in danger while working with the British, Salim said yes. There was a one time in particular when we were attacked by a suicide bomber and several people were killed. Salim provided Open Democracy with details of the unit he served with, but we have decided to withhold them to avoid them being identified. He said that the experience of living out of the hotel room over the 2 years has been frustrating, but that despite that he was grateful for the UK for resettling him. Luke Polliard, Shadow Minister of the Armed Forces, said the Conservatives are failing the brave Afghans who risk their lives supporting our armed forces. It is unacceptable that Afghans are facing homelessness after being booted out of bridging hotels, and even more shameful that some Afghans cannot properly feed their children. From backlogs to broken housing promises, this is a shameful saga of the government's failure on multiple fronts. It is the moral duty to Afghans is felt more fiercely by the UK forces they are serving alongside. Ministers must live up to their promise and end their failings of Afghans. A refugee council spokesperson said it is vital that we make good on our promises to the brave Afghans who stood alongside British forces against the Taliban. The eviction of Afghan families from hotels has left many in precarious situations without support and the need to rebuild their lives. It's extremely worrying to hear Afghan refugees struggling to feed their families while they live in limbo in temporary accommodation without any kind of security and certainty over what the future holds. Instead of a betrayal, our Afghan allies should be properly welcomed and given a chance to start their lives again in the UK. Johnny Mercer, the Minister for Veterans Affairs, did not respond to a request for comment. The government spokesperson confirmed that Afghans remaining in hotels will no longer be provided food or laundry facilities. They added, our data shows that less than 15% of the families were in bridging hotels have been accepted as homelessness and are now in local authority temporary accommodation. The homelessness system acts as a safety net and ensures no family will be left without a roof over their head. Local authorities have been provided with $35 million of new funding to support Afghan households to move from hotels to settled accommodation, and we will continue to support the councils in their efforts. Their names have been changed. They have been left to fend for themselves, abandoned, throwing it on the councils to deal with this when councils already have enough problems as it is. We've covered a lot here about the issues that councils have to deal with as it is, guys, and I just feel a lot for the councils. I feel for this family, and I feel sorry for these Afghans. I really do. My throat's a bit sore, so I'm hoping water will make it a bit better. It's frustrating to say the least, guys. I'd like to hope that at the next general election that Labour will manage those in this country a lot better. But right now it's a struggle for these people, and this is of no fault of their own that they've been put in these situations, guys. No fault of their own, and they deserve better. So, from one story about refugees to another here, guys. And this final story we're looking at is from Byline Times. Most asylum seeker accommodations horrendous and often dangerous as government plans to legalise hazardous housing. Boarded up houses in streets used to house asylum seekers in Middlesbrough. Yeah. 75% of councils have lodged complaints about the conditions of asylum seekers' accommodations, Byline Times can reveal, as the government tables plans to remove their ability to investigate those complaints. Oh, and remove the complaints. See, this is more cover-up again from the government. This is despicable. In April, it was revealed that the government planned to legalise hazardous accommodation for asylum seekers by exempting refugees' housing from licensing rules for homes of multiple occupations, HMOs. HMOs licences are one of the primary ways authorities ensure homes filled with large numbers of people and were not initially designed to fit on a fire risk, dangerously overcrowded, damp and mouldy and otherwise unsafe. But the UK, the plans are currently subject to a legal challenge by 3 families seeking asylum in the UK. But now Byline Times can reveal that the vast majority of local authorities that house a significant number of asylum seekers have been forced to take complaints and do inspections at asylum seeker housing that riddled with rats or had collapsed ceilings. A Freedom of Information request seen by this newspaper found that 39 of the 52 councils that answered had lodged serious complaints about the standards of housing for asylum seekers in the boroughs in the last 5 years. Across the thousands of complaints and inspections logs, hundreds concerned severe infestations or disrepair like damp and mould, and hundreds more covered the HMO's licensing inspections the government is set to halt for asylum seeker housing. Bradford Council alone recorded 7 cases of collapsed ceiling at asylum seeker accommodation in their area. While not every council broke down the nature of the complaints, At least 16 councils were asked for help with infestations of rat, mice or bugs, while almost half of those that responded, 18, had to deal with serious disrepair. South Tyneside Council, which covers Tyneside towns like Jarrow and South Shields, averaged a complaint in regards to asylum seeker accommodation 1 in every 4 days, or in the 5 years since January 2018. It followed the likes of Liverpool City Council and the London Borough of Kensington and Chelsea, which each recorded hundreds of complaints in that time. Too many people re-support living in horrendous and often dangerous housing, said Tim Nadar-Hilton, Chief Executive of the charity Refugee Action. What this investigation found is almost certainly just the tip of the iceberg, because few people in the asylum system know that they may be able to call their council when their home is crumbling. While people are left in deficient housing, the government contractors who are responsible for these properties are racking in scandalous profits worth tens of millions of pounds. It's time for change. Asylum accommodation must be provided on a not-for-profit basis, and responsibility must be handed back to the property-funded councils. The latest revelation comes after a government report into the mistreatment of the Brook House Immigration Centre published on Tuesday identified toxic culture and numerous breaches of human rights law. That same day, it revealed that the Home Secretary had halted annual inspections of immigration detention centres, such as Brook House, last year after concerns about conditions were raised by the Independent Chief Inspector of Borders and Immigration. They're only made to do something if they absolutely have to, and they're only doing it because it's their job, not because they want to do this. The Home Office will do anything to paint this picture that these immigrants, asylum seekers, refugees, migrants, that they're all the problems that are occurring. They don't care about them. They really don't, guys. Earlier this year, news outlet Open Democracy reported that the Home Office helpline for asylum seekers have received 11,800 calls about asylum seeker accommodation, including 1,400 complaints related to a hotel accommodation. A Home Office spokesperson said, despite the number of people arriving in the UK reaching record levels, we continue to provide support for asylum seekers who would otherwise be destitute. We expect our accommodation providers to provide a good service, which is why speaking to them about delivery and performance daily. They added that the plan to remove HMO licensing requirements initially for 2 years would not remove minimum accommodation standards, stressed that the Home Office has clear standards for asylum seekers accommodation and that asylum seekers have access to 24/7 migrant help line for a formal complaint process. I still think they're not doing, like, this thing here. This is infuriating. That's infuriating. I mean, they just don't care about these people, do they, guys? They just don't give a monkeys. And they're willing to throw them in the most inhumane conditions possible just to get them somewhere, and not at least a reasonable standard, decent accommodation. We have a severe lack of housing crisis. I understand councils are in a difficult position, but when they're under the Home Office really are treating them like crap. And it's pretty damn disgusting, to say the least, guys. I do feel for them. But it's good that these are being highlighted, that these issues are being highlighted, because it shows that we have to do more to make sure that they're well looked after, guys. On that note, guys, we are coming up to the hour mark, so just under an hour it appears to be, guys. Guys, I hope you found this episode of Newsround interesting. We covered quite a few different range of different topics on different articles. I hope you found. Let me know what you guys think not just in the live chat, but in the comments section down below. Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget, of course, if you can, to like, share and subscribe. As always, it really does appreciate, and it helps support the channel. If you can also check out some of my other links down below. I do plan on doing some exclusive content for Patreon coming soon as well. Yes, actual political news video is going to be exclusive to Patreon. It's going to be coming soon as well, so be sure to check that out as well, guys. So thank you very much for watching. Take care as always, and I hope you have a great weekend, guys.